Can Google Gemini actually help me mix a song better than ChatGPT? In a previous video, I used ChatGPT to help me mix a track, but it couldn't even hear the music. I had to describe everything to it because it's currently unable to analyze audio yet. But today, we're going to run this experiment back, and I'm going to use Gemini this time, and Gemini can actually analyze audio. So will it give me better feedback than ChatGPT? Let's find out. All right, so this is the track we're going to be working with today. I've already exported this into a WAV file, but just so you guys can hear it and see what we're working with, I'm going to go ahead and hit play.
Yeah, I'm rolling up another pop-up, then I pass. We smoking on exotic in another class. I'm looking at some shake and bake still on the dash. Y'all boys can't smoke like me unless you got some cash. Yeah, herbal.
I chose this one specifically because the lyrical content is a little PG-13. A lot of these tools they have guardrails in place that don't allow them to answer or talk about certain subjects. So I want to see if this one kind of gets around that, or if that limitation is even in place with Gemini to begin with. So if we go over into Gemini here, that's the question. I already uploaded the audio that we exported. So here's the track, and this is the prompt that I gave it. So you can pause the video here, take a look at the actual prompt I used, and see exactly what I'm asking it to do. But essentially, I want it to just analyze this audio and tell me everything it can detect about the actual audio I uploaded. So if we scroll down here, we can see, based on its analysis, it was able to properly tell it was a hip hop track. It says its BPM is 90, but in actuality, it's 127, so it got that wrong. It says the key is G sharp, but it's actually in C minor. But it did detect the cadence, the right tone and pitch of the vocal range. And if you look at the instrumentation and the mood and tone, you can pause it here, but it detected basically this spot on. So it was able to detect the vocals, but let's see if it can tell me what the lyrics were about. So what are the lyrics about? And let's go ahead and hit run on this one and see what it does. Okay, so fast forward a little bit. So it answered the question, and as you can see, again, pause it just to read everything that it says, but it's able to properly tell what the lyrics were about. And if you remember earlier in the video, I wasn't sure if it would answer this particular question because of the lyrical content, but it answered it. Whatever your track is about, maybe it's a little bit more X-rated. Using this tool, if you want to use this to kind of analyze your track and get pointers on it, it doesn't seem like it's going to restrict that. So that's a plus with this one. I think ChatGPT, it doesn't talk about certain topics just because of those guardrails that they have in place. Okay, now we're going to see if we can actually use it to help us mix a particular track. So just like in my previous video with ChatGPT, I'm going to focus on the vocals, and let's just play them real quick.
Yeah, I'm rolling up another pop-up, then I pass. We smoking on exotic in another class. I'm looking at some shake and bake still on the dash. Y'all boys can't smoke like me unless you got some cash. Yeah, herbal essence is my presence.
So what we're going to do is we're going to export the main vocal bus. We're going to export the hook bus, and we're going to export the verse bus, and we're going to feed those to Gemini. Okay guys, so I fast forwarded a bit. As you can see though, these are my 3 exports, and then this is our prompt that we used here. You guys, again, feel free to pause the video and just take a look at the prompt and see exactly what I asked it. But essentially, I told it what kind of tracks I was uploading, and I told it what I wanted it to look for when giving mixing recommendations. So keep that in mind. And then after I entered in that prompt, you can see that it thought about it for a few, and it gave me a very, very detailed breakdown of what I needed to change and why. So I'm gonna scroll through this real slow, and as always, feel free to pause the video and just take a look and read in depth at what it said. It gave quite a bit of detail, like a lot of detail, and this is great for learning purposes. Like if you aren't sure as to why a particular mixing choice would be made, this does a great job of kind of explaining what the goal is, what the expected result would be, and just kind of why we want to do that. So very useful for like bouncing ideas off, and you know, you could use this for many other things besides mixing. Like maybe if I wanted to feature another vocalist on this, maybe a singer, I could ask it, what kind of singer, what kind of vocal range do you think would complement this track, right? So, and it can suggest singers and give you ideas as far as, you know, how they could harmonize on it. So just, you know, the limits are, you know, really just kind of what we can think of to ask it. So again, this is a lot of information here. So for my purposes, I just want to see if it can spit out a mix chain that will sound good for this. So let's tell it to basically summarize this, right? Okay guys, so this is what I ended up asking it. Summing this up in bullet points, please tell me what I need to change by the effect plugin and track. And it thought for a few seconds, and then it just gave me exactly what I wanted, the actual mix chain for these different buses. So we have our mix chain. Let's get back into Ableton now and see how it sounds. Okay guys, I had a chance to apply the processing chain that Gemini recommended. So this is what we got. We start with the verse bus. Let's scroll down to that. So it suggested first that we add an EQ8 and use a telephone effect. It mentioned to use a high pass filter and cut around 500 hertz, and then also on the other side use a low pass and cut around 4000 kilohertz. So that's what we did here. And then the next thing it suggested was to add some panning, and so I use Ableton's auto pan here. I only put 20% for the amounts to make it a little subtle, but just 20% here. And then the next thing it mentioned is to add a delay and add a chorus ensemble with a phaser and flanger. So it didn't really specify to use parallel processing, but I figured this would be a good opportunity to do that. So we have our main mix coming in here from the top that just has the EQ and the auto pan, and then in parallel we're going to put the chorus ensemble, phaser, flanger, have the phaser turned all the way up. I did not adjust these at all, hardly. I just moved the dry wet knob a little bit. For the chorus, we're going to turn the volume down 8 decibels just so it doesn't overshadow the main chain here. And then we're going to apply a ping pong delay as well in parallel, and we're going to turn that down -16 so that doesn't overpower the lead vocal as well. And then moving up to the hook vocal, it gave me something for the main hook bus, but I feel like it would be better applied if I took it just a level down to the background vocals here. So starting off with what it said first, it wanted me to add an EQ8, again a high pass filter around the 200 kilohertz range here. So that is what we have here. And then a mid-range cut around 3 to 4 decibels. I didn't quite follow that to a T, but I did cut a little bit of the mid-range here. And then for our utility, it suggested that we do a wide stereo width of 130 to 150%. I did 200% just because. And then it said to place a saturator before the EQ. So I just loaded up Ableton stock saturator plugin, and it had a preset called a bit warmer. I just applied that to it, and then that kind of maps out our background vocals. So I muted these plugins here because this isn't what it recommended me do, so I'm taking that out of the mix. And then I just added a utility to control the gain for the entire track and just turn it down a bit. So now if we finally go to our main vocal bus here, what it suggested was another EQ8 with a high pass filter cut around 100 hertz to cut some of the muddiness in the middle here between 250 and 400 hertz. So that's what this second band here is doing. And then to boost it a bit around 2 to 5 kilohertz. So that's what this band here is doing. And then we added the default Ableton de-esser to this chain, just like it mentioned. And then I am adding a glue compressor here with the ratio 4:1, a pretty high attack. And then I adjusted the threshold to taste because it said I should target it to be around 3 to 5 decibels that kind of get compressed here. So that's what we're doing with this. And then finally, it mentioned to put a utility track at the end here and then set the width to 0%, which is essentially putting it in mono. So that's what I did. I left my Lifeline console effect on just because I like the way it sounds. It's one of my favorite plugins. And then I left vinyl on just because it also gives it a bit of grittiness that I like. And so that's that. Let's play it and let's see what we got.
Yeah, I'm rolling up another puff, then I pass. We smoking on exotic in another class. I'm looking at some shake and bake still on the dash. Y'all boys can't smoke like me unless you got some cash. Yeah, herbal essence is my present. In the air, it's a must. In the puff, I place my trust. Inhale the vibe, exhale the stress. That's my ritual. Nevertheless, clouds of thoughts with every breath. Now that's the perfect sesh. Inhale, exhale, life's chill. In my smoke trail, above the clouds, floating. I in my own cell. Yeah, chilling like a villain. Where's my cake? Sky to the ceiling. Yeah, in this herbal game, I'm the artist. This the feeling. Yeah, yeah, I'm rolling up a.
Well, there you have it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. So can Gemini help you mix a track? I'm not going to say it's going to get you the best mix ever. It definitely made some questionable choices. I don't think I would have had the lead vocal sound like a telephone. But if you're new to the mixing process, if you're just starting out with production in general, I do think AI can get you started in the right direction. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. As I mentioned earlier, we're only really limited by how creative we can prompt these tools. So if you have any ideas for different types of prompts that we can use to get better results, leave them in the comments below. If you like this kind of video and you want to see me explore using AI with music in future videos, let me know that as well. As always, if you found this video interesting, hit that like button. Please consider subscribing, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.